Hi everyone, I'm Geoff Hall, and today's show that we're doing is about the Nashoba Valley Ski Area, which is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. Let me give you a little background on skiing here in New England, and I'm going to give you the Google version because that's the one I use. Apparently, it was the Scandinavians in northern New Hampshire, the ones that first kind of introduced skiing to this area. And if you went back 150 years or so, you would have found skiing was done basically just to get around. It was the turn of the 20th century where you began to see it being done more for sport, once there were automobiles and things such as that. As time went by in the early part of the 20th century, actually, Dartmouth College was one of the first to actually run a ski club, and I believe that was in 1909. And then you saw skiing grow up in the New England area because it was conducive for skiing with, well, if you live here, you know what it's like, just like I do. There's plenty of snow, most winters. But it was a Nashoba Valley Ski Area that opened in 1964. And I want to concentrate on the Nashoba Valley Ski Area. I have with me today Al Fletcher. Hi. Al, who is the founder of the Nashoba Ski Area, and his very famous daughter, Pam, who was an Olympic skier back in the 1980s. Correct, Pam?
Yep.
Yep. And got a training right on the hills of the Nashoba Ski Area. Al, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Listen, Al, I'm going to ask you the first question. How did you get started in this business? You were an avid skier, I guess, as a young man?
Yeah, it was my parents' fault. They built a house on the top of a hill. So down behind the house was an apple orchard. I used to ski between the apple trees.
Okay. That was in Littleton, right?
Littleton, yeah.
Okay. Whereabouts in Littleton would that have been?
It was Goldsmith Street, 94, I think, Goldsmith Street. It was the top of the hill that goes from the Baptist church up.
Okay. I know exactly where it is, Goldsmith Street and the area you're talking about. And you skied down there into the apple orchard down below. So
Yeah.
you, as a young man, grew up as a skier.
Right.
What inspired you to open a ski area?
I don't know. I got hooked on the idea probably when I was in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
The Navy didn't keep me occupied well enough, so I started thinking about things to do when I got out. Skiing was one of them.
Okay.
And I tried to buy Nashoba Hill, but the guy that owned it didn't want to sell. So that went on for about, now probably 5 years. And then one day he called me up and he said, "Are you still interested?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I'm moving to Florida, so why don't you come talk to me?" I said, "Where are you?" He said, "I'm in a house." "Stay right there, I'll be right over." So I went over and bought the first piece.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's about 17 pieces.
Okay. So how much area is there in all there, Al? How many acres?
Probably right close to 200.
Okay.
Yeah, but 90 are skiable.
90 are skiable, okay? Now, 90 are skiable, when you say skiable meaning on
Skiable
skis,
terrain.
but how about your snowboarding and
Skiing or snowboarding.
Snow tubing?
No,
Tubing
tubing is
a different
another
thing.
60.
Yeah.
Okay, tubing is another 60, and that's the area towards the Littleton side. Okay.
Yeah.
Al, I've done a little research on the history, and it opened in 1964, and you only had 14 good days of skiing that year.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Because of the warm weather?
Warm weather, and it didn't snow at all. And we had snowmaking, but we could make very little snow because of the warm weather.
Okay, now the snowmaking machines obviously were a little different back in 1964 than we have them in 2014, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
A lot of changes in the whole sport.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Al. What do you think, we talked a little bit prior to the show, what made Nashoba Valley Ski Area the success it is today? And when I think of the Nashoba Valley Ski Area, I mean, I turn on, say, the Bruins game, and there's the advertisement, Nashoba Valley Ski Area. So Westford, Mass, and in many ways, has been put on the map as a result of this.
Well, there's a lot of changes that have taken place. When we first started in 1964, I don't think there were a handful of skiers in Westford.
Okay.
And the towns around here. Skiing was not a popular thing around here. Even though they had the money to do it, they just weren't interested. Today, it's altogether different. Part of that is due to the equipment changes. And one big thing for the sport was the fact that nylon came out. Actually, you didn't have any piece of clothing that the wind wouldn't blow right through. So for the timid or it was known as a sport for the ruffian. And probably for good reason. All the equipment has changed completely since we started.
You might have been had if you were a skier in 1964, a simple pair of jeans and a set of skis, and maybe some long johns on under that.
Yeah, freeze to death is what it was.
And it'd be very cold, I'm sure, certainly.
Yeah.
And so it was the advent of equipment that brought that on. You started with 4 runs at the beginning. Would that be correct?
4 toes, rope toes, going up, and yeah, probably 4 runs.
Now, a rope toe. Could you describe a rope toe? Because I don't think they exist anymore. But those are
Wait a minute, we still have one.
Oh, that's right, you do. Okay, but those are for the beginning skiers. Would it be?
The one that we have is, and it goes pretty slow, so they can get on and feel comfortable. But back then, we had some that went lightning fast. Okay. And that you'd grab onto the toe, and it'd drag you to the top of the hill. Yeah. Well, it wouldn't drag you, it'd pull you, and you'd go to the top of the hill.
One of the criteria at the time back then was that you couldn't afford to keep the rope tow rider on the rope for more than a minute.
Okay, how come?
Because he would wear himself out.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have to hang on.
Yeah.
And, if you want to get to the top, there's some distance there. So the greater the distance, it's faster the tow.
Okay. So I don't ski. So you're talking to someone who has no idea of how this works. So the introduction of the TBar was 1972, I guess, the first TBar. What is a TBar?
TBar is uphill device that will take 2 people, and it's a T, comes down on both sides. And it's very practical and a lot of them put in.
Okay.
The chairlift took over later on, but T-bars were popular.
Yeah, and for us, the TBar was, an easier way for more people to be able to ride. Some of the faster tows, they were challenging for some people to ride up on because, number one, they moved fast. You got to hang on. As Dad said earlier, riding a rope tow was much more tiresome than riding on a TBar. And then there were the ladies.
What about it?
Well, you said the ladies liked to ride the TBar because it was so easy for them to get up.
I'm sure that must have made a difference in increasing, making the sport more popular for women then, correct?
Just more popular for everybody
Yeah.
in terms of accessibility. It was just easier.
Okay.
Then you go one step more into a chairlift, and that makes it really easy.
That's the one you just sit in a chair and they put
They
you up
take
the
you right
hill.
up, yep.
Okay. 4 runs originally. How many are there now?
17 trails.
17 different trails.
Yep.
Okay. Now, when you say trails, one right next to the other, Pam? Or
Oh, no, they're all spread out.
they're all spread out. All right.
And they have the ability now to be able to transport a number, many more skiers per hour up the hill, but in a way that they're not all in trouble at the top, because we don't have a very large area at the top where most of these lifts actually convene. So you end up getting a good spread out grouping of skiers and riders all over the hill versus having them all clustered in one area.
It's not all skiing today. And one of the things I found out was that it was in the early, I guess it was the early 1980s, you were one of the first in the country to allow snowboarding.
True.
Okay. Now that must have increased your clientele as well, correct?
Yeah, I could go into some stories on that.
Feel free to go into at least one good one.
Well, the first snowboards were terrible. They had no steel edges, which meant that after you skied on it for a short period of time, it was just a rounded piece of plywood.
Okay.
And people, there was no cut. You know, today a snowboard has a narrow waist to it, and it allows you, when you put it on edge, it will turn for you.
Okay. So the equipment got better and made the sport much more popular. Well, I mean, Al, take a look at the early skis. Okay, the early poles and the early shoes. I'm sure
there's a few changes here.
There's been a few changes to that equipment too. I'm sure that has made it easier and much more popular as well.
Yeah, you know, the one thing that he brushed on that's important is that aside from the changes in clothing, the changes in equipment that has made the sport easier to get involved in, and then in the past recent years, the equipment has dramatically changed. So we find people are entering back into the sport because it's actually easier to learn based on the equipment changes and the warmth the clothing provides and the mobility the clothing provides. But talk about some of the major changes in snowmaking and grooming, and how back in the day it was completely different than it is now.
Yeah. That's a little bit too involved, though. I don't know if the average person would understand it, but
I'm the average person.
You're an average person, okay.
Without going into a lot of detail, you say that snowmaking is different. Obviously, it has to be different than it was in 1964.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back in those days, it was strictly air and water, or compressed air and water under about 100 pounds.
Okay.
And it was limited. Today, there's a variety of different equipment. We probably use 6 different types of equipment to make snow.
Does it produce different types of snow, Al?
Well, they work at different temperatures.
Okay.
And that's the main thing. If it's white, we want it.
Okay, that always helps, yeah.
But like, we updated our snowmaking compressor system just like, what, 3 years ago? Right?
Yeah.
And that was a huge investment. But what it did was it allowed us to make 50% more snow in less time, using less energy. So the efficiency of the equipment, based on how technology has changed it, it's amazing. You know, when it comes to making the snow and when it comes to grooming it. So making it more of like a carpet.
Okay. And making it
smooth,
better quality, and smoother to function on and to ride on.
Yeah.
right?
It's not all about skiing, okay? That's what the Nashoba Valley Ski Area is, but as I said, snowboarding, and recently, within the last 6 or 7 years, snow tubing.
10 years.
10 years,
At
that
least.
long, really?
No, actually, I think it's 14. I think it's the same age as Witches Woods.
Okay,
So that's 14 years ago,
okay. So
right?
Don't ask me.
Come on.
Well, let's say, so snow tubing that's become very popular as well.
Yeah, that it was a question mark whether that was really going to fly or not. And I sent young kids out to try it, and then sent them back to try it again and then again. And Al looked at me one day and he says, "Why do I keep going out there to do the same thing?" I said, "Because I want to see if you get sick of it." Now, you got to realize skiing, there's a lot of skill involved. And you get a series of lessons to become any kind of a skier at all. With snowboarding, with tubing, the big lesson is you have to know how to sit down. Most people
Sounds
know
like
that.
my kind of a sport.
Most people know that before they get to the area.
Yeah.
But it's like, as a kid growing up, we had sleds and I guess toboggans and things. That's the type of that's the sport involved in it. You just slide.
And we find that adults, we do a lot of corporate outings out at tubing, and we find the adults have just as much of a good time as the kids do because of the very reason that Dad mentioned. You don't need any skill to go down the slope. So now all of a sudden they're enjoying the winter in a way they've never really experienced it. And they get to be outside having fun with their co-workers, or we find families in the same genre that they're out there just enjoying winter.
Getting outside and enjoying the winter where they wouldn't otherwise.
Right.
A point well taken. But it's not winter all year round. We'll say from December till, say, March. And that opens up a whole another area where you've got this land that you got to do something with. So you expanded upon that. What did you do?
We do a summer day camp for kids 4 to 14. And we also do a volleyball league for adults. And that helps to fill up the summer.
So people understand that they're not using the hill here. There's actually a swimming area there. There's a pond right next to, the ski area. And that's where the kids swim. You say the 4 to 14, that camp that's advertised, it runs, 6 weeks in the summer, something like that, Al?
I think it's 8 weeks.
8 weeks, okay.
Yeah, and then we had a swim club for a while.
Okay.
And that has been converted into the Sunset Tiki Bar and Grill.
Okay.
So we do corporate outings in the summer during the day. They can have the place privately to themselves for their either family reunion or their company outing. And then Monday through Saturday night, we're open to the public. So people can come. We have lifeguards on staff. They can swim. They can watch entertainment. They can have a bite to eat. And that's been very popular as well.
This tiki bar has been very popular.
Yeah.
Very
and there's
popular.
really no
That's
place.
her fault. She came to me one day and said, she said, she was in charge of group sales. She says, I don't have a venue. I don't have anything to put adults into in the summertime.
That's big enough.
You know, so that became the Tiki Bar.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's taken off. It's become very successful. A lot of locals. I mean, you talked about the corporate outings, but it's also a kind of a destination point for, hey, I'm out. You know, let's you know, we're going to stop in with some friends and have a few drinks. That would be the place to go because it's different, and the entertainment there.
Well.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and in the winter, you know, the Outlook Restaurant and Lounge, it looks out over the skiing and the snowboarding. So you can actually be up there, have a nice meal, and watch, you know, your family out there skiing, or watch maybe the adult team racers. The same in the summer with the volleyball. They have a racing league for adults in the wintertime, and it's very, very popular.
Yeah. I've done it, Pam. That's my type of entertainment. Yeah. Sitting in that nice warm area next to the fire,
looking
with
out the window,
great food, looking out the window.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I really enjoyed that. But once again, the guys like me who not an outside sport kind of guy in the wintertime, you still can enjoy that part of it because you do have that venue to go to.
Well, and we pride ourselves on the fact that we're only 20 miles outside of Boston, but yet we have big mountain amenities for a ski area. We have, you know, New England's largest snow tubing park. We have a terrain park that is, you know, equally as beneficial to the snowboarders and the skiers, with all the giant hits and jumps and rails and boxes they have in the park, as many of the mountains up north. But yet, you know, it's not a very far drive to get there and go access it. Plus the snowmaking and the grooming. I mean, they provide a very good snow surface, and quality has always been something that this guy's been trying to achieve in terms of giving a quality product that is accessible to people, where they can go out and have fun and enjoy the season.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, I grew up in town, and anytime Al Fletcher's done something, he's done it with quality, and it's always a good product, you know, and that's, you can pride yourself in that, Al.
We bought the first power tiller in New England. Now they've all got them, but we were number one. There were only two others sold around here, and that was to Hunter Mountain. And so I have a pretty strong affiliation with Hunter. And I said, what do you think of these power tillers? He said, I don't dare tell you. I said, what do you mean? He said, you'll love it.
And that's the thing that goes on the back of the grooming machine that churns up the snow behind the actual tracks to give it a finer consistency.
And make it so it's a much better ride.
Yes.
Yes. Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Witches Woods. Where did that idea come from? Okay. Al, want to talk a little bit about Witches Woods?
Well,
Tell them when your birthday is.
Yeah, my birthday is Halloween, so I had a con job right there. My mother did it to me. Anyway, I had heard about a number of scary venues out there, and I couldn't see why I wouldn't be involved in that kind of thing. So we started slow, tried it out, worked pretty well. So now we draw a lot of people now.
Yeah, we have over 40,000 on average visits a year.
My grandkids love it. They absolutely love it. I mean, they look for the younger ones. I mean, they really look at it. And even the older ones, the teenagers, you know, you get a good group of them in there.
Well, and if you think about it, there's not a lot for some of those teenagers to do in the area. Yeah. I mean, there's no special fun things that are really for them. And this provides a really fun form of entertainment for that younger crowd. And we have a lot of those kids. They'll come 3, 4, and 5 times in one season because of the actors. Because we have at least 170 actors that are out there physically involved in the Witches Woods process itself. So every time you go, it can be different.
Yeah.
Because an actor is in a different spot, you know, so it makes it very exciting.
It makes it exciting, yeah.
Yeah.
And recently, the last few years, the Festival of Lights during the holiday season.
Yep.
Okay. Where did that idea come from? Once again, right?
No.
This guy's an idea
That
man.
idea actually came from a guy that was in the business and couldn't figure out why we didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he came down and he had all the equipment. So we let him put it up. And the problem is that it became too popular.
Oh,
We couldn't handle the traffic flow.
oh, interesting.
Well, this is when we did it where you drove your car
Yeah.
through the actual light
Yeah.
festival, and they had problems with that.
Mama would stop the car and tell the kids, go out and take some pictures.
Ah,
And, you know, then she had to find the kids and get them back in the car. So a line of traffic would back up onto Route 119.
but you worked through those glitches like anything.
Well, we changed the whole thing around. That's what we did.
But it's working. It's become a very
Now-
popular destination once again during the holiday season.
Yeah.
Yeah, now they have like some rides and games and activities. They have fire pits. The kids can
We
make
took
some
the
s'mores.
wagons over from the wagons that we owned,
From Witches Woods.
Okay.
so that now they leave their car and go on the wagon.
And then we can control the flow, which is important.
Let me ask you this, Pam, and that's great. That's 50 years. This is what we've seen. We've seen Witches Woods. We've seen Festival of Lights. We've seen snow tubing. We've seen snowboarding. We've seen tiki bars. We've seen the summer program. What's the next 50 years going to be like?
Oh,
What's in the
know.
future? You have any other plans? I mean, to expand
don't
upon
know.
what you've got there now?
the future is hard to predict.
Sure.
I wouldn't have been able to predict any of this stuff way back. But it all came to a logical conclusion that that was necessary. Not necessary that you had to have it for life to exist, but necessary for people to have fun.
Yeah. I think that if you look to the future, I know that in talking with my brother, who now is running the ski area, you know, he has ideas for expansion, but in a similar form of the way Dad approached.
So you're keeping an open mind.
Well, open mind, but as Dad always has looked at, you know, expansion, you got to move kind of slowly.
Sure.
You can't, since we're so volatile based on the weather, we have to be careful about how big a step you take. So,
But we can't expect changes in the future. Listen,
Oh, yeah.
Pam, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Al,
Geoff.
Wonderful job, and keep up the good work. You're the idea man. I expect to see different things. As we celebrate the 50 years of Nashoba Valley Ski Area, there are 4 different things that are going to be going on. You can register online at skinashoba.com over the next couple of months, and there are going to be prizes given away. In other words, to celebrate the anniversary, they're not getting prizes, they're giving them away on the 27th of February, Throwback Thursday. Actually, you're going to be able to ski for $2.50, the original price to ski back in 1964. On the 9th of March, there will be the March Meltdown, where you dress appropriately. Get your bell bottoms out. This is 1960s, folks. And then, finally, there's a select a photo. If you have a photo of yourself, family member, skiing at Nashoba that you think is appropriate, get it to Nashoba Valley Ski Area. All this information is at skinashoba.com.